Aliens. Those damned aliens. Are they just those strange, bright, green-skinned beings we always see in those science fiction movies? Or is it those silent, mysterious beings walking among us every night when we lift our faces up to the sky? Perhaps they were all an illusion, a cosmic fantasy, or even worse, reality, far from any imagination we could have ever had. Humanity was never alone in this damn universe. As a matter of fact, it had never been alone. But here's the shitty part. No one knew. Only those few paranoid, crackpot scientists and some crazy people naming themselves researchers had managed to catch on. But one thing was for sure. Those damn creatures were here already. And they were watching. Hell, they were probably placing bets among themselves, wondering, when are these idiots going to blow each other up? It all started back in the 1960s. What time, right? While the Soviets and the Americans were having a pissing contest over who would get to space first, were there any folks who realized the real players were watching this circus from behind the scenes? Of course not. Everybody was too busy trying to get a man on the moon. Funny, right? Sending a man to the moon. Meanwhile, those guys were probably already playing soccer on Mars. But we, the dumbass human race, were still proud of leaving our footprints on the moon. It was a reality, however. Aliens were not only much more frightening, they watched our entry into space like kids jumping into the pool for the first time. The first signals were picked up by a few freak scientists working in the Soviet space program. Through crackling radios, voices came through shouting, "There's nobody here." But one thing was dead sure. Among those crackles, voices were speaking in some language, just not Russian nor any other earthly language. They must then have realized that the source of those voices from space came elsewhere, some species hiding and watching at us. Now, at this point, you gotta stop and ask yourself, why were they watching us? Why were we being observed like damn lab rats? Think about it. Human beings had made their world a sack of shit. Wars, hunger, ecological disasters, and overall those idiotic shows. But amidst all this, was there anything that we came to realize? No. Since they watched us so carefully, we didn't even notice. No need for cameras. Their technology was far beyond the limits of our dumb little brains. Well, the year was 1969 when Neil Armstrong made that historic step upon the moon. You remember that. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. But that was in fact a lie. It wasn't a giant leap, it was just a dumb little hop. And as Armstrong and Aldrin walked around on that dusty surface, just a few kilometers away, a pair of eyes did watch. Eyes unseen, watching each step they took. Aldrin may have looked over at the dark side of the moon for a second, and with his own eyes saw something there. Something stirred in that blackness. And of course, these fellas didn't say a peep when they got home. You try telling somebody you saw something weird out in space, you are either a paranoid nutjob or silenced forever. What did the aliens want? And that is where the answer lies. The secret was within humanity itself. They weren't just observers. They were controllers, manipulators, the puppet masters behind the scenes. Every big war, every big revolution on Earth was part of their plan. Just like those big secret societies that run things behind the scenes, so are these cosmic beings using us as pawns in their cosmic game. You think we're writing Earth's history? We're writing crap. The real authors are hiding among the stars. By the early 1970s, weird projects were going on behind closed doors in secretive United States military labs. MKUltra, you might ask. That sweet, old-fashioned bullshit? Nope, that was just kid stuff. This time it was something else. Mind control, that's nothing. This time, they were literally playing with our species. They started with a series of experiments that manipulated the human brain frequency. But these experiments had their inspiration from elsewhere. Very few officials then had this urge from above. No, I'm not talking about the White House, are you nuts? I'm talking about above, like above the stars. And upon these orders, they started to work at making certain changes in human DNA. That was the 1980s when the explosion started. The technological revolution. What a crappy revolution, eh? In reality, all those fancy microchips, computers, the internet, none of that was even invented by us humans. The real building block was alien technology, nicely packaged and move further to us. And we had no idea we were using it. Yes, all those geniuses sitting in Silicon Valley. Masks. The real inventors were beings from some other universe. And we, the dumb human race, thought we were just playing with the toys they gave us. But their biggest trump card was yet to come, and that was observing, watching, and walking among us. Many people referred to them as the Greys, little, stubby, big-headed creatures. Yeah, that's right, they were part of it too. But the issue wasn't just confined to these Greys. The real question was, who were the Greys working for? They were someone's slaves. Higher beings, cosmic minds ruling everything, were controlling them. Minds so vast that they couldn't be seen or understood. Our limited brains couldn't even grasp their existence. And here is where it starts to go to shit. By the 90s, the world began a steep descent into a rather darker trajectory. Global warming, environmental disasters, economic crises. Humanity was, in a way, setting up its own deathbed. For the aliens, though, this was just the last stage of a long-running experiment. Perhaps they were asking, how much can humans take? Or perhaps they were more than just observers. They were those causing these crises. Do you recall the global financial crisis back in 2008? You know, how it all went downhill since those damn banks fell and spread everywhere. Yeah, you think that was because of Wall Street's shitty greed. But actually, that was part of the plan. The aliens were just testing mankind to show us how fragile our economic system was and put us in a corner. They wanted to see just how easily our technological and social structures would fall apart. Because the real game was only just beginning. Remember back in 2012, when everybody was talking about the apocalypse? Some stupid Mayan calendar actually made people believe that the world was going to end. But the apocalypse had actually already started so silently. The aliens weren't causing the apocalypse, though. They were just observing and waiting until the very last second to interfere. Because for them, watching us destroy ourselves was this huge scientific experiment. And maybe was more than that. But here lay the glitch. Mankind was more resistant to the change than expected. Yeah, we were the champions of stupidity, but it just wasn't that simple to destroy us. Then again, at that stage, the aliens decided to proceed to the second stage. Intervention. Here's the big question you gotta ask. When will these guys intervene directly? Right then. Something happened. Yes, I'm saying something happened. But do you know what it was? But it was a surprise to all that humanity put up a very unexpected resistance. Our dumb species was busy watching the planet fall apart, and yet a bunch of maniacs managed to figure out the aliens' plan. Someone figured it out before that damn button was ever pressed. That was the real surprise. While billions of fools stared upwards at the sky and saw only stars, several of these damned awakened people observed the little details within that dark picture. Who are these awakened people? Usually, the crazy ones running from the government or working in the darkest corners of the state. You know, it is always like that. You think everything is in place, the world's running smoothly. But underneath that system, it's a swamp. Starting from around 2015, they did not know what changed. For even beyond the brain-rotting trash of the mainstream media, some of us could see. However, thing is, seeing is not enough. You have to understand. And do you know what that thing was? By some means, they had found traces of these condemned aliens. I'm talking about crazy bastards, a few rogue scientists and intelligence agents working on those top-secret military projects. As time went on, they reached information that even the governments couldn't control. They were inside those black-budget secret projects. Isn't it funny how these secret projects were right in front of our eyes? No one asked this simple question. Why did the world advance so fast in technology? How could all those phony companies bring about that technological revolution so quickly? Of course, imbeciles. That was no man-made revolution. After 2015, everything accelerated. The development of human technology had such a momentum that it seemed we bypassed several centuries and jumped into the future. But did you notice it? This development brought with it an enormous peril. Artificial intelligence, biotechnology, nanotechnology. All those bloody things seemed to be made by human heads. But the fact was not that way. The origin of that technology was those watching eyes themselves. They had, in fact, started walking among us for quite some time already. Not just watching from afar, but right next door. The many UFO sightings? Well, more often than not, it was just these men walking around out in the open, camouflaging themselves from us. Remember the incident in Roswell, New Mexico? Everyone thought that was an accident. No, my friend, it wasn't an accident. Those damn creatures showed up then and made themselves known to us because they were going into a new phase with the experiment. They were blending in amongst us. Another question, which you really should be asking yourself, is, since when have these aliens been among us? There are so many stories that are just not going to fit within your little head. Not only in the 20th century, but for thousands of years they have been here. Who do you think built the pyramids in Egypt? You really think dumb slaves carried those stones with their hands? Ah, sweet child, it's not that simple. Those pyramids were some of the first signs of alien technology to appear on Earth. They've been watching us, manipulating us ever since. And we, stupid humanity, were their pawns. Maybe they were the creators of humanity. That thing we called God was probably just part of their game. All unconsciously, we lived just like their puppets, oblivious to the big plan. But at the beginning of the 21st century, everything flipped inside out. Humanity started to get cornered. Global warming, environmental destruction, economic crises, pandemics. All of it was part of the plan that those beings were carefully working on. They turned this planet into some sort of laboratory. And whenever the test subjects, that's us, start to get out of control, they interfere somehow. In 2008, the global economy came very close to collapse. The people started to lose faith in their governments and systems. So, with chaos impending, those invisible masters stepped onto the stage again. Things really began to go to shit when, in 2017, the Pentagon's secret UFO program was exposed. You know, those Tic-Tac UFO videos? What a big fucking deal that was, right? Man, everybody freaked out. What the hell is this? But very few people knew what it really was. The release of those videos was part of the plan. The aliens decided to disclose themselves, but this was only in preparation for a bigger plan. A lot of people watched those videos, and some of them called it UFO, as if the aliens were tourists visiting Earth, curious about our miserable world. Hell no. The bastards had been here, had always been here, and the real question should have been, why do they show up now? The answer lay in the big event that would bring the end of humanity. In the year 2020, there came a pandemic. That infamous COVID-19. Was that a virus or some kind of intervention? Could the aliens have intervened with such a highly tuned plan? Absolutely. People love biological wars, but they never question who gets the wars going. COVID-19 was just a warning. These beings had found another way to say, stay in your place, behave, because they knew the true nature of humans. They knew we were chaotic, selfish, and aggressive, and they were going to use that to their advantage. But by 2021, some weird things started to happen. Strange lights in the sky, objects detected on radar, but invisible to the naked eye. Then, governments tried to camouflage these events, and it was not as easy. These objects were different from the usual UFO sightings. This time, it wasn't just observation. These objects were directly interfering. Power plants going offline, strange electronic malfunctions at military bases, even some missile systems being disabled. All this was a sign that these alien beings were running out of patience. They were tired of merely observing. They had reached the last stage of their plan. And here, humanity stood at an important crossroads without even noticing it. Stupid wars, climate crisis, social collapse. Opposite these, well, these alien beings were getting ready for a much bigger crisis under their watch. While humankind was still trying to decipher the motive behind the aliens' intervention, the aliens had already reached a conclusion concerning what they were going to do with us. The real question was, how the hell were we going to get out of this? Early in 2022, strange things started to happen around the world. A few small countries' power grids suddenly collapsed. They said it was due to a terrorist attack or technical failure. But that wasn't the truth. These incidents were the first steps of those watching eyes. Intervention had begun. Electricity, sources of energy, communication systems, one by one, these were being tested by the aliens. How durable was humanity's infrastructure? Or more correctly, How quickly could we be driven into chaos? The final shock to mankind would occur. The extraterrestrial beings had stopped merely being observers and began to prepare to step totally onto the stage. And that was when one immense truth would appear. How long had they been here? What were they trying to do? And what the hell did we stand for in this game? Nobody knew any of those answers. But time was rapidly running out.